Hey team, welcome to another episode of the Rugby League Lounge weekly show. Now, I just want to address a few things. The camera, I'm pretty sure this is going to look absolutely horrendous. My laptop has been awful. It is just falling apart. Hopefully, by next week, I will have a brand new one. And fingers crossed, the camera is working primo. So, first off, apologies about that. Second off, apologies about just kind of going away from a structure that I thought I was going to be able to do weekly. I still plan on doing that structure, which is the golden points where I address an issue of each team. But the last two weekends, I've been very busy. So I thought this weekend in particular, it was a good way for me to get some fan questions going. I was a bit short on the responses early on, but I posted a few the questions stuck a few times and I got a few more replies. So thank you guys. And there's a couple in particular that have really come through strong. So cheers for that. So hopefully I can get onto that golden point next week where we kind of make sure we touch on each team. So please, guys, when I put out those posts after the games on my story, please comment what you'd like me to cover about those teams. I want to make sure I'm meeting the needs of you guys, making sure I'm talking about stuff that you guys want to hear rather than stuff that might interest me. But at the end of the day, I'm doing this for you guys. I want to make sure it interests you. So your feedback is always much appreciated. So let's get into the fans' questions. I always enjoy doing this. We're obviously doing this quite a bit during the off season as it wasn't, it was harder to get topics going. So it's good that actually it is good to kind of have a week going back to this. So yeah, always want to keep you guys involved. And I don't have it here, but on the first time I posted this, I got a question from Bryce Morrow. He asked, do you believe Adam Reynolds, or should I say Nathan Cleary, is the healthy version of Adam Reynolds? Now, I understand where he's going with this one. Look, there's not many traditional halfbacks in the game now, and these guys probably, in terms of top tier halfbacks, fit this mold the best. But ultimately, no. Now, these guys are the cool, calm, collective under pressure. Adam Reynolds has somewhat gone underrated because obviously he made Origin, he's been Premiership halfback, and then hasn't got there since. But during these last few years, I think he's better than when he played Origin. And I think there's been a bit of bad luck in timing. Obviously, you've got the likes of Cleary, you've had Pierce also play good footy, so he hasn't been able to been able to have his chance. And he's so cool under pressure. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Cleary has a better ceiling and a more all-round game. Cleary, we really need to start processing that Cleary could be the player we refer to as the best of this generation. Now, I'm not saying it's his for the taking, but I think there is a very high chance. Like we said, he is a traditional halfback in the sense that he can control the game. He's got pinpoint accuracy in the kicking game. He is able to manage his team around the park. Plus, he can just grab a game by the scruff of his neck. And still, he's got a running game that honestly rivals most halves in the game. He's just someone referred to, I think it was Isaac Johns. He's like he's got a 40-year-old head on him. He just knows what it takes to win footy games, and he just looks unfazed. And I'm not saying Reynolds is that. He is that, but it's just more to Cleary and ultimately, and it's no disrespect for Reynolds because I just see Cleary has a chance to be kind of this player of this generation. Not saying he will be, but we really need to start thinking about the ceiling of Nathan Cleary because, man, it is scary. I hate to do projections like that, but at the end of the day, hey, let's celebrate it rather than shy away from it. Now, I just remembered here, I did get here we go, Ned. Yes, this is a question. I'm going to bring up the Panthers again. Are they Premiership certainties? No. Ned Kanoski, they are not. But look, I think I was identifying there was about 6 genuine teams that could win the comp, and Panthers were actually kind of in that bottom 2. Like of those, them and Parramatta, I wasn't too sold on. Now out of those 6 teams, look, Roosters, unsure now with the Kerry injury, but I think there's a top 3 now that probably look like the most likely. Panthers will be on the top of that, and I believe the Rabbitohs and Storm. Look, the Panthers' arrogance is an issue we'll bring out later. But honestly, let's look at the other way it can be perceived, the confidence. They are so confident. They haven't let last year's defeat get to them in the grand final. And they are, they just look, they enjoy footy. And you think, like, I thought the experience loss was going to be huge for them, or not huge, but it was just actually going to I thought last year in comparison to this year, I thought they were going to be a better team last year. A lot to do with that. And, but they have just come out the blocks and proved me wrong. And it really makes me kind of question the leadership. Obviously, leaders are important. No doubt about that. But is it less vital to have those leaders now? Are we just seeing players adapt more the first grade quicker? And I'm not too sure what really is a result of that. I know young players, I believe, are more suited to the game now because of the rule changes. But how does that relate to, being able to be cool, calm, collective, like we refer to Nathan Cleary? Like, yeah, I'm unsure. Maybe it's just kind of a different, we're entering a new generation where it's just kids are prepared. Look, I'm unsure, but man, the Panthers are looking hot. And honestly, they should be premiership favourites, premiership certainties. Not a chance. No one's a certainty. Obviously, you got injuries, but tell you what, they cover for injuries brilliantly. They've had games where obviously Coruscant's been out. Kenny's looked fantastic. They had a game where Nathan Cleary was out. They beat the Melbourne Storm, who were, yes, depleted as well, but they still beat the Melbourne Storm. Last year, we've seen them cover with Coruscant for huge amounts of time. We've seen, other instances where Burton's come in to play and fill that role. So they got the depth where, even though you think, some people have tipped them to potentially not lose the game this season, you think injuries are going to happen, but they have been able to cover. And ultimately, they only lost one game last year and drew another. So, hey, it's not out of the realm of possibilities. We'll just go on to the next question here, guys. I'll just double check I haven't missed anyone. Just looking for my DMs, as that was through my DMs. League of Inches, he has said biggest shock so far and why. I think it's got to be the Dragons. I had them as wooden spooners, and at one stage I actually had them being a smoky to make the 8. And a lot of that was on the back of potentially having Ben Hunt there. And also, I like the signing of Anthony Griffin in a way. He's someone I'm really confused about. Look, at the end of the day, when he's had a team, he's been able to get to the finals. I am concerned that I don't know if you can win a premiership, Anthony Griffin. I definitely don't think you can with the Dragons, because I think, he can't quite elevate them to that level. But he has proven that he can get a team to win. And he's brought kind of like a former Broncos brigade, and it really shows that they buy into what Griffin says, and he's worked on combinations. All these past relationships have helped him. Look, I saw this potentially being a thing for the Dragons, but at the end of the day, there was a lot of what ifs. What if going on with returns to form? What if Ben Hunt can play halfback and he's gone injured and he's still been great? What if Jack Bird is healthy? What if all that? It seemed like a lot of what ifs. And ultimately, I still didn't even think their talent matched up, even if those players were firing. Also, McCulloch, I just thought maybe the game had evolved. But they've proven me wrong so far. Now, we look at who they've beaten. So I don't think they are four wins to 5 games. I don't think that's not a reflection of them as a team. But at the end of the day, they've beaten Manly, who bottom spoon favourites for a lot of people, or up there, along with the Bulldogs and the Cows. But they beat them convincingly. They beat the Eels, who were undefeated. They also beat the Cowboys, who, yes, we talked about them. But at the end of the day, this team's, I've tipped the Cows to win. So I was down on the Dragons, as you know, and they were still able to win those games. And a lot of the times, it's about winning those games that you are meant to win, or those games that you're a 50-50 chance of winning. You got to do it. So they've played what's in front of them, and they've won those games. They've also been a Knights team that lost Mitchell Pearce, but they took advantage of that. At the end of the day, like a lot of those poor teams lose those games. So they've proven that they can, kind of exceed my perceived expectations of them, and a good majority of rugby league fans. And let's be honest, they could be 5-5. they were very unlucky to lose that Sharks game. There was a rough call for Cody Ramsey's try that got denied. So Sharks have really surprised me this year. And I think the signing of Josh Maguire is a good one as well. You know, another guy that's part of that former Broncos team. So, yeah, it adds a bit of aggression. He's been quite public with a few comments from his former team, the Cows, about just their lack of effort and just a few things regarding that and just not too sure what's going on. So he's going to be passionate. He is going to commit. I can guarantee you that. Let's go to Brad Campbell, my good mate Brad. Do you think if Power falls short again this year, Brad Arthur could be under the pump? Yeah, I do believe, and especially if the same issues arise. I have been quite encouraged by Parramatta, as me and League of Inches kind of covered in our most recent weekly show, because I think there is these positive signs from the spine. I think the balance of Mitchell Moses and Dylan Brown is a good one. I think Mitchell Moses can kind of be more of a guy that is kind of getting them around the park and his kicking game, leading them astray. I shouldn't say leading them astray, but leading them around the park. And he's still able to produce that magic. But no, he doesn't have to do that because he's got talented players around him. He doesn't have the weight on his shoulders. The biggest reason for me is Reid Mahoney could really reach a level as a top free hooker in this game. He's currently pretty high up in the Dally M's. I know he was leading after round 4. You've also got arguably the buy of the year. I said something at the start of the year that is probably my biggest, shouldn't say shock, because I knew the Warriors shouldn't have let him go. But one of the biggest things that I underestimated was the party signings. Because I said Eels haven't brought anything in. They haven't lost. I thought they lost more than they gained, to be fair, with the Michael Jennings departure. But yeah, I thought Parley's going to be good, but not this good. He has been the buy of the year in terms of, value for money. He has been brilliantly off the bench and starting as well. So the impact he provided has been huge. So yeah, I think at the end of the day though, if we see the same things happen that we've seen from the Eels, so basically, when they dip as the season, carries on, they aren't resilient when it counts. They just at the end of the day, they just can't keep up with the likes of the Storm and the Rabbitohs and the Panthers and that. If the same issues arrive, yes, ultimately you can. I think they need to stay strong and keep Niakora on the centre. Yes, it is tempting to have Wonga Blake there. You potentially could sub out Opacek, who I don't think has done a bad job. He hasn't set the world on fire, but I think he fills a role. He could potentially go there, but I think you got to go Niakora there because I think that is resolves one of the issues you had last year in terms of your defense and just a bit of balance. Yes, Wonga Blake is a scary prospect, but in terms of balance, it's better because you do have those scary prospects. You have the likes of Wonga Blake, not Wonga Blake, the likes of Sevo, the likes of Blake Ferguson and their halves that can break the game open. And for the Eels, we've seen it in the Broncos game and their loss against the Dragons. Well, when they've struggled is they haven't used their forwards. They haven't gone forward. They've rushed. And I think it's underestimating those bad teams, or I shouldn't say bad teams, but those teams that they don't probably think is threats. So at the end of the day, I've been really happy with the teams that when they have gone forward against those teams that I should say they've respected more. So yeah, but he could, if the same issues resolved, they're not resilient in the finals, definitely Brad. Sam Kosak has talked about, he's asked 2 questions. Is this the start of a Manly resurgence? And he's also asked something that really threw me left field because he said, who drops out when Curtis Searle is back? Ola Kautu or Schuster? Now, no, I don't think the start of a Manly resurgence, but I would like to say this. Tommy Turbo's obviously been back or out, and he is coming back. Now, at the end of the day, I think the Whanau loss and Aiden Whanau-Blake loss has been really felt as well. And at the end of the day, Tommy comes in and he doesn't solve all their problems. And with Tommy in there, it's like, he's not even going to get them back in the 8. There's just so many holes. But at the end of the day, because it's like, how is he going to help the defense? How is he going to help? Just all these little things that you think, no, that's not how Tommy impacts the game. But it's just having him there in the picture. It's like, all right, we've got a game. If we're able to keep this tight, we've got a game. We've got one of the best players in the game to get us over the line. So it kind of gives us a belief that, yeah, we're not wasting that effort. Because even if we're putting in the effort, we're getting there, I don't have the confidence of getting us there because I just believe we don't have the star power to do it. having Tommy there, it's kind of like just, just this boost, because it's like, yeah, oh look, we got Tommy, and it just makes you play better, makes you defend better. It's not like Tommy is the one defending. It's not like Tommy's the one, that might necessarily not be making you attack around the ruck better, or all these different areas impact the game. But it's just like, just having him there is kind of someone like you're out to impress him. He gives you this lift. So yeah, but like, what's the word? When you have I completely forgot the word. Like when you take something, and you tell yourself that, this is going to make me better. But at the end of the day, it's just water. I forgot the word was there. But and yeah, that Schuster one, I was like, who is Ola Katau? And I looked him up, and I was like, who drops out? He hasn't played a game, Sam. Hasn't played a game. So who drops out? Well, none of them. So that really threw me off guard. And I didn't have a look at the bench who would drop out in depth. But I'm going to have a bit of confession, because I thought I was going to have to confess about both of these guys. All I could tell hasn't played. I was like, man, that's really testing my knowledge. So Sam, a bit worried about your Manly fandom there. Yeah, but he's a young up-and-comer, so it'll be interesting to see him if he gets a chance, but I don't know anything about Schuster. Out of all the young players, I always like to keep an eye on the young talent. I have not kept an eye on Josh Schuster at all. I didn't watch him in his debut last year. I remember he got huge reps, and I never got around to watching it. And this year, I have been a bit funny the last couple of weeks. I haven't been able to watch much footy as I would have liked, but yeah, haven't been able to watch much Schuster. But from what I hear, there's a lot of reps on him. He's a big body that can do a lot of skillful things. Kind of Dean Kemp brought up a good point, and obviously this is me not having a great knowledge about Schuster, but he won't be surprised if he has a high ear account in him, because even though he's got all the skill and all that, he's going to be attempting to do these kind of low percentage plays a lot, just because he has it skill in his bag, but it's not always going to pay off. So it's just being able to rein that in, because and that's what's awesome about what I've heard from Schuster is just, when you've got that size, obviously when you have got kind of like a triple threat, you've got, the running game, the power, and you've got the skill to back it up. Yeah, honestly, as defenders, you're frozen, because you got to consider everything. It'll be interesting to see where Schuster fits in, like where his best position is, because obviously he's filled in the halves. It looks like he can be a 13. He's obviously been playing each back rower. So yeah, so Schuster's interesting. And yeah, he is a guy that I'm going to be taking notice of this weekend in particular, because I think I deserve to do that as a rugby league fan. I just need to. I haven't thought about this. See, my Letty, if you can choose one legend to come out of the retirement to help the doggies, who would it be? I actually haven't thought about this. I thought about this really early, and then I didn't come up with an answer. But I think at the end of the day, you can't solve all the issues here. Now, obviously, you just go the best player in the game, I'd be the best player in the game, to have played the game in Cameron Smith. That addresses your hooking issue. That addresses we talked about Tommy just lifting up players, just his presence. Lifts them up in attack, experience, cool head. Ultimately, like if you had to, he probably would be my pick. Also think they need creativity, and obviously you can't just get that in one player, but you can get passion, you can get creativity, and you get a sense of direction in Jonathan Thurston. Also, obviously, a former dog. But I think for me, Cameron Smith, I think he just has a lot of issue. And even if he just obviously signed for a year, say if he's just there for a year in his peak, I think he just, once he's gone, his culture, his impact is still felt. And I don't think you can say that with many players. That's how valuable Smith is. I think he'll teach them a lot, and he will make things easier for a half duo that is young and inexperienced, and especially in the likes of Kyle Flanagan, who's had a really rough start to his career. Not because he's been playing bad footy, it's just because of the situations he's been on. He's been shipped out by the Sharks, and the Roosters one was just unfortunate. And this Bulldogs one, I think at the end of the day, even though I didn't believe the Bulldogs were going to be world beaters this year, I think a lot of people did have high expectations of the Bulldogs. And even though I didn't have expectations of the Bulldogs, they have kind of not been quite to the standard I thought. So, yeah, honestly, I do think, I don't want to overthink it. I think Cameron Smith will be the guy I'd bring in. because at the end of the day, you could bring in the likes of a Pete Kane or bring back I don't even know, like a Slater or whatever, Greg Inglis. I think you just need someone that can potentially change the culture and just make other players better. And Smith is probably the best guy to do that as well, especially in Hook is a position of need. So, yeah. This is a new name to me. Hope I say this right. Raul Meg, the Mighty Dragons to beat the Roosters. Look, hey, I don't think they're going to beat the Eels, and the Roosters are down on troops with no Keary, as we know. Look, I'm not picking it, but if we're sitting here this time next week and the Dragons have beaten the Roosters, don't be surprised. What's a way they can hang on a second? They're not even versing the Roosters this weekend. Gotta check this. They are. I think they're versing the Roosters in because they versing Anzac weekend, don't they? So I think you have jumped the gun a little bit, Rumeg. If I'm saying that right, they do verse the Dragons. Yes. Because the Roosters versus the Storm this weekend. I'm pretty sure we got a question regarding. Actually, we might not have got a question regarding that. But ultimately, yeah, obviously that's looking pretty far ahead. But like I said, they've been my biggest surprise of the season, and they can potentially take advantage of a 4-pack and of a weekend Rooster side. And Sam Walker, let's just focus on Sam Walker while we're on this topic. Had a great game. I love Sam Walker. I've got a man crush on him. And I realized when I was thinking about it today is we, at the end of the day, I think we are running low on instinctive halves, or were, but I think we're seeing revival of it off the Walker's Luai. I think why we're doing that is because we're so used to playing in structure, because we have more coaches, more people, more technology, more stats, blah, 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 that has to taught the play a lot of block plays, high percentage plays, blah, blah, blah. But Walker just looks like he just picks up the footy and plays what he sees. And a lot of that has to do with his dad and his uncle obviously being a part of that team. Ipswich Jets, they coached that team to a premiership in their grade, and they did unique things like short kickoffs. They'll run the ball, just all over the park. And Sam's obviously taken a leaf and obviously been influenced by this, and he just plays what he sees, and he's got the skills to be able to play and the confidence to be able to pull these things off. So, yeah, for me, though, relating back there, and apparently because I missed this game, but apparently first half Wade Graham was actually doing a really good job of kind of minimising Walker. Could Tarek Sims be that guy too? Because he's an aggressor. I'm not unsure what side of the field that they might be matched up against, but could he be, and Josh Maguire's there, could they be able to toughen up Walker? That could be a really interesting insight to see. So, yeah, hey, potentially, but there'll be a good contest for sure. And also he's going to come up against a challenge this weekend against the Storm. Kafusi being notable guy to shut down halves, and just the Storm in general always look to, put those players that are rising high, put them back to earth a little bit. And I'm sure they'll be able to do that with Sam Walker. We'll get into the last couple of questions here. We've got Game Dots always sending questions. Really appreciate it, man. Was the Panthers' attitudes towards the Raiders Viking clap wrong? Look, we touched on it earlier about the arrogance of the Panthers, and I am a bit unsure. I'm sitting on the fence on this one. It's been interesting because obviously they lost the grand final, and you thought maybe that would humble them a little bit, and I think they've been humbled, and I kind of in a way, but obviously it doesn't seem that way. Like, I think, they're not going around expecting they're going to just go back to the grand final this time. It's going to go the way it is. But at the end of the day, this worked from last year. So use that, but just tinker it. And yeah, it's getting under, obviously, is it disrespectful? Like, there's a few disrespectful things that borderline happened with the Stephen Crichton, just Tarpany. After analysing that, I ultimately don't think that was the right decision by Stephen trying to do that. Yeah, and I think it's going to rub players a long way, and I think it was going to bite them in the ass sometimes. And this Viking clack ultimately probably is going to bite them in the ass. Teams, it's going to there's scars there, and they're not gonna remember. It just adds fuel to the fire. But at the end of the day, if the Panthers have been able to back up the talk, and if that might not matter, they might ruffle feathers and it might put a target in the back. But hey, if they're confident in their footy, as we address, yeah, it's not going to matter. And for the Raiders, I think this is just, Ricky Stewart plays in the Ricky Stewart. He can put this in his back pocket and uses motivation later. He's done that before, and I think for me, I think at the end of the day, I think the Raiders are happy they did this. At the end of the day, it just gives them another kind of extra motivation. Not that they need the extra motivation, but it always comes in handy. We're going to go to Patrick G3653. Do you think that the Storm and Roosters are the most hated team in the Premiership? Ultimately, yeah, probably are. And it's just funny because what do they have in common? They're winners. We like to keep things interesting. We like to always have different teams in the finals. Like I bet you, like when the Storm and Panthers played last year, more teams would have been more of the neutral fans would have been supporting Panthers. When the Raiders and the Roosters were playing, the neutrals would have been supporting the Raiders. And obviously it would have been a bit split in 2018 because the Storm and the Roosters were both in the final, but it probably would have been the Roosters because the Storm won the year before, and vice versa, Storm Cowboys. So it just shows that we just want to keep things interesting. We're sick of the same thing, and I think also probably just the way they win too. With the Storm, it's the wrestling and the big three. They've always had the best players, blah, blah, blah. They can be boring footy. In the Roosters, they've got the salary cap sombrero. So there's a lot of things you can pick nits at. So, yes, I think they are. I'm trying to think who could contend. Like, obviously, say if the Panthers go on a 3 year, say if they go back to back or whatever, they win the premiership, they'll become the most hated team, Stuff like that. Winning is funny. We just like to hate winners, and I think that just has a lot to do with just being bored of the same thing over and over. So it is an interesting dynamic. That will the Cowboys start a dominant run? Now this is from Seth Drag, and this is our last question today. So he's got a Cowboys logo, but let's just talk about the Cowboys in general. Interesting game to dissect because the Tigers thought they were going to get up, obviously, after the passing of Tommy Raudonikis. And I'll just take this time to say my condolences to Tommy and his family. And rest in peace, legend. You were a true hero of this game. An absolute character. Wish I could have watched him play live, but unfortunately not. So thoughts go out to him and his family. But let's just go. So I thought, and I was saying that I thought the Tigers would have got up, but they didn't. They were horrible. But let's talk about the Cowboys. They look pretty impressive. They look good in spurts. Tigers almost called their way back, but they did this without Tamalolo. That's a huge win. Drinkwater shows glimpses of why I rate him pretty highly. Yes, he is a Storm player. Could be a reason. A former Storm player could be a reason, but he does have attacking flair. And obviously, honestly, like stuff like this, getting a win under the belt might be just what it needs to find the confidence that, yes, we can win 40 games. Sometimes it's just as simple as that. And why I tipped them at the 8 is I believe we've got the talent there. And I believe that Peyton wasn't overrated. I think he is a guy that knows how to get the best. And I've been happy with how he took the gamble or made a decision. Holmes is going to be wing at the start of the year. And then Drinkwater's going to be fullback. Tamalolo's going to be playing least minutes. So he had a plan. It hasn't all worked out. But maybe a win is what is going to create this domino effect. Ultimately, though, a lot of my reasoning for them being high was being optimistic about the health of Michael Morgan. And now he has retired, which is really unfortunate. Best of wishes for his retirement to Michael Morgan. Great player to watch. And just a legend of our game as well. But I think they might be getting Clune. I'm not too sure. I think they might even be happening this season. And Clune, I have been high to praise Clune. I think he is really underrated as a halfback, and he is a winner. So, and I think, say if Drinkwater is forced to go to 6, and they do go back to Holmes at fullback, I do like the mix there. I do like Clune being able to take the pressure off Drinkwater, make those plays at the kicking. He also has an underrated running game as well. And then Drinkwater is not, put that responsibility of kicking for field position and doing all that organising. He can play his game, and his best ability is just running the footy and playing off the back of his forwards. And hopefully this one kind of inspires forwards, especially with Tamalolo back, and we can get to see more of that Ruben Cotter and Robson combo taking over as well, because I think they've been a bit quiet. I expected them to be kind of a duo that kind of caught people off guard a little bit, but they haven't quite delivered. But look, I don't think it is, but I think it could be interesting to see. I'd like to see how they do respond after a win, and to see if it was more about them rather than the Tigers' poor outing. So yeah, so that's us. I enjoyed that, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed that too. I will be back next week. Hopefully, we go back to the golden point structure. But yeah, if something comes up, then we might just have to go back to this, which I do like in talking about. Answering your guys' questions. But I just want to make sure we cover each team. So that's why I've attended this golden point set up. Have a good week, guys. Enjoy the footy, and I'll catch you guys next week. Have a good one, team.